Hi, we all remember this. It is Industry 2.0 around 1930, about 100 years ago. And at the time, the concern and fear was what mass production and then production lines would do with people. This is the subject of our presentation. However, with Industry 4.0, the technology that we are considering and that many people are concerned about is the AI technology. However, we are claiming in this presentation that exactly that AI technology can also be used to ensure human well-being, not as is shown here, but as we are going to see in a more efficient and humane way. Is about human digital twin, a solution that we are building to digitally integrate humans in Industry 4.0. Again, not in this manner as shown in the picture. So what is the challenge with Industry 4.0? Industry 4.0 provides employers with a huge level of flexibility and access to a lot of information, a lot of resources, a lot of markets, and a lot of calculation power that enables them to adjust and change the nature of the production and the markets and so on in a very, very flexible way and very fast way. So that is on the one side. On the other side, what this does with workers is that they are more and more under the pressure to balance between the demands and the flexibility demand and the personal life. Third player now that is becoming more relevant to this is the social system. And this is a statement from a report from German Federal Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs 2020 about reimagining work. And the statement is, when we reimagine work in our time with the Industry 4.0, it is about achieving a fair compromise between employers' flexibility and the workers' needs. And this is what this presentation is about, is how to use AI to achieve that compromise, that fair compromise. So how to achieve that integration and what way are we proposing to ensure the balance and the fair compromise between the three parties actually. So on the one side, we have the Industry 4.0 environment, the employers. On the other side, we have the human. And what we need as well is the social institutions, and this is the policymakers and the state and the government, which are responsible after all for the resilience of the overall society. So how to achieve the balance between the three parties? The idea is that we have what we call a human digital twin. A human digital twin is an agent, reinforcement learning agent, that is user specific. I mean, each user, each worker, each human would have their own human digital twin. And that human digital twin would start by, like all smart machines and smart agents, by learning user interaction with their smart environment, with their factory, smart city, and so on. And once these interaction patterns are learned, the human digital twin would keep monitoring and updating them. However, once an unexpected change happens, I mean a requirement, a flexibility requirement from one of these smart agents in this environment, so the digital twin will get a change request, and it will consider user preferences. It will also consider social targets and norms and standards, and then come up with recommendations. So what the agent would do here is optimize and balance between the change requests, the preferences of the user, under the or within the limits of what is the society is ensuring to be acceptable for everyone. And that part, it is not only about protecting the workers, it's also protecting the employer, because the resilience of the overall environment, if it is lost, everybody will suffer, as we are going to see from the example. So the vision is to establish the human digital twin social platform as a key technology to ensure that the well-being of the workers and the balance between work and employer, and ensure social resilience. The new aspect of the digital twin is that policies regarding this kind of balance between work and personal life are digitally implemented in this agent. So they are explicit, they are declared, and they are part of the daily decisions of how a worker would respond to a change in the environment. So it is a new means to enforce and enable direct interaction of the policy with the daily decisions that humans may make to accommodate their work and to interact with their smart environment. I am an information architect. I have been doing information architecture for complex systems for many years, and this concept here is also about information and information management. So on the lower level, this is the level of interaction between a human and the smart machines, and there is also a lot of agents and a lot of smart interactions here. However, the human digital twin is operating on the information regulation level, not on the information exchange level. And this is again another aspect that from an information management perspective, we have here the flow of the information, and here is the control flow of that information. So that's the abstract part. So how would this work in a real life? The use case that we are working on is COVID. And in COVID, the challenge with COVID is that citizens, and we are experiencing this still, they don't have clear targets for social distancing. I mean, it is being said and mentioned, but there are no clear target, no measurable targets for them to follow. The challenge for employers is that they need to sustain operations, so they also start to have a lot of rules. However, these rules are valid only within their organizations, and so they cannot impact what happens outside. So they also suffer from the impact of the spread of the COVID, that the people cannot go to work and so on. So the social system, the challenge is that there is no direct and differentiated way to manage social distancing. So the only solution that is left is the lockdown. There are various degrees of lockdown right now. However, still the most effective one is the complete lockdown, and this what leads to from an open economy to a closed economy with all of the consequences for everyone involved. Okay, so what is the alternative? What is the solution that we are proposing, and how can we support or avoid lockdown? So we have the population, we have the customer, which is city and health organizations, and then we have the HDT platform, which is made of two major parts, the modeling and simulation parts, and then the human digital twin. So people would start interacting and go about their lives in the society, and that would result in a social distancing heat map. That heat map shows different level of social proximity in different places in the city. In the meantime, as we mentioned before, the digital twin would observe the interactions of their users and build up this interaction pattern, which is locations on the map where the user starts their day from work, go to certain customers, how much time they spend, and so on. And then it will calculate, based on an assigned index, the level of social distancing over a certain period of time. Everything will be okay until something happens, pandemics. In this case, the health authority in the city would use this environment to assess if social proximity or social distancing levels are increased by a certain amount, how would this impact the spread of the virus? And then they would decide, okay, increase social distancing by 30% should reduce the spread of the virus under a certain number. So that target is given to the digital twin. The digital twin takes that target and, based on the numbers and the user interaction patterns here, develops a couple of options. These options are based on user interests. So this option might be professional preferences, that the user need to still go to work, go to office, visit customers, or this might be a social option. Both options, the number of the level of social distancing is then reduced according to the target here, and the options are provided to the user pick up one of these options and then start following it. And if all users do that, this would then increase social distancing in an extent that should reduce the spread of the virus. And once this happens, then this number is adjusted again. I mean, it can be increased or reduced again based on what happens here, and the cycle goes on until to maintain the spread of the virus under a certain level. And this cycle can be automated. So these are all can be algorithms that calculate and adjust these targets automatically. Another component is that there is a compliance. So the human digital twin can also indicate the level of compliance of the people. How did they comply with the requirements? And that environment, this approach should enable managing social distancing and then manage the spread of the pandemic while avoiding a lockdown. The idea is that the people get individualized targets based on their needs. They have preferences in following these targets, and if a substantial number of people in this community do that, that would impact the overall social distancing levels in the city and would make managing the virus possible without, again, as I mentioned, without a lockdown. So this is one of the use cases. What is the idea about what we have just done? What we have just done, we were able to be resilient. I mean, the society responded with resilience to the pandemic. A shutdown, a lockdown is not a resilient response. A resilient response is the one that enables that the system still maintains its major functions while managing that change. The same concept can be applied to any industry 4.0 operation. So a supply chain or production, usually there is a planned performance and then something happened that is the actual performance, and something happened, a deviation, actual performance drops, or there is a gap between actual and planned, and then some actions are taken and then there is a recovery. However, this happens over different stages. So it takes some time until deviation is detected. It takes some time until decisions are made. It takes some time to implement the decisions. It takes some time for the system to respond to the decisions, and then the recovery happens. This is what is called system resilience. System resilience is a function in the time it takes until between deviation and recovery, and the swing, the level of the deviation. And this is the area under this curve. The big advantage of Industry 4.0 is that most operations and most performance monitoring also involve prediction. So usually deviations are predicted either in the performance of a single machine or a production line or a market, for example. There are some predictions that happens before the deviation, and that's very valuable because in that time before the deviation happens, this starts. What shall we do about it? So once deviation happened, the intervention happens much shorter time after that, and its implementation even a shorter time. And this is how the system can recover very quickly. And that is why Industry 4.0 are assumed to be much more resilient than non-smart systems. However, on the other side, this also encourages employers to do a lot of changes in the environment. The critical deviation, the critical part for managing deviations and ensuring resilience is that time between predicting and acting. And this is where we plan to inject the interaction or connect with the digital. So if we think in the same what happens with the same process, so once a deviation is predicted, then people who are responsible for managing or involved in the recovery, they get estimated change requests about what do they need to change, either their schedules, their locations, their tasks, and the digital twin receives this signal. It looks into the person's other commitments and other preferences, and then it comes up with availability and level of resistance. I mean, how far is that worker is willing, for example, to achieve or to participate in that change. This signal is sent back to the planning people who are planning for executing decision, and the benefit in this case is that both parties are happy with what is going to happen, because these people, the change is done according to the rules and preferences that are being built into their digital twin, and that's why the change is they can support that. On the other side, from the workers level, they know, because these changes are being are in line with the workers interest, then they can trust that the implementation would happen in a much more effective way, and this is what ensures that the overall social system is resilient. The same idea can be applied in different areas, because the challenge of modern social life is that people are part in many domains and organizations, and when a change comes from one domain, it is not possible for a human being to understand and assess the consequences of accumulating these changes on the long term, on their interests on the long term. Only machines can do that, and that is why the digital twin will consider all of the changes across the user space, so to say, and that's why the solutions or recommendations that are coming would consider the user, and this is what would ensure that resilience. The Human Digital Twins platform is about many relationships, and from the other side, the state would also be able, and other platforms would be able to connect to many people and coordinate with them in a digital way. We are working on 3 use cases. I mean, the doctor digital twin, which should improve operations in intensive care units. We are working on the pandemics management, as I mentioned before, and then we are also working on a supply chain resilience use case. The idea is that the concept is universal. It can be applied in many cases to manage change. This is the team, and it is really time for Human Digital Twin. Either Human Digital Twin or any other kind of smart technology, the way to manage and ensure resilience today in the current environment will not happen without some kind of personal AI. Is it this one or others? We'll see, but it will not be possible to ensure that protection for workers and human well-being without having some kind of personal AI that everyone used to manage their complex lives. So yeah, let's create together. The presentation was part also of trying to find further use cases to implement that concept. Thank you very much.